Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day, good night, good everything. My name is Jason Weiss, and you are here with me on the Ask Jason Weiss show. Now, although I am an attorney and a coach and a mediator and a consultant, and nothing here today is considered legal advice. Should you seek legal or financial advice, consult an attorney or a professional. We are just talking hypotheticals today. We are talking generics, and this is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Now, today we're going to change things up a little bit, and we're going to be talking about something that we hear about nonstop, regardless if you listen to CNN, Fox, CNBC, or whatever affiliation it is. But we hear all about logistics, supply chain, tariffs, things being made in the US and being shipped out. So today we're going to talk with Rachel. It's Hayden, right? Hayden, Rachel Hayden, who is our transport and logistics hiring partner. And what she does is she helps people find careers, jobs, and positions in that area of work. Now, I'm sure, I don't want to put words in her mouth, and she'll tell us she could do more than just that, but that's her niche. And someone said it to me recently, and I think it was someone on a show, riches in the niches, meaning if you can go ahead and focus in something niche, unlike me, who's all over the place, that you can get hired and you can work with a career professional and a solutionist is what I want to call her. And I made that up. So without further ado, I want to thank Rachel for being on the show. We have a common friend, Chris. We'll keep his no, he's been on the show, so we could say that we have a common friend, Chris Cousins, who's been on the show, who's connected us. And we clicked, and I basically said, you got to come on the show. And you were like, well, sure. Okay. Twist my arm. So here she is, her podcast debut on Ask Jason Weiss. Rachel, so glad to have you on the show today.
Thank you, Jason, for having me on the show.
My pleasure. So we're going to just jump right into it. You help people get hired or find opportunities in the logistics and supply chain arena. What is logistics and supply chain? Because we hear about it nonstop, right? COVID happened and everything was delayed. Why? Supply chain, logistics. We're not getting cars as fast because of tariffs, supply chain, logistics. Yeah. So what is logistics and supply chain, and what are opportunities that are out there in general for those of us, namely me, who's not 100% sure what that really means?
Right. Okay, thanks. That's a great question, because supply chain drives our logistics, right? And so when you think about supply chain and logistics, you're thinking about manufacturers out there who are supplying our food, our beverages, our auto parts, our packaging. So taking supply chain in a whole view, everything you touch, everything you have in your office, my office, is created through supply chain, okay? And so the logistics moves the product. And so interesting enough, when you have a slowdown in supply chain, like right now, everyone's having a hard time. They're pre-buying for product right now because of the tariffs, right? We're scared that it's going to be a little bit of a slowdown. So if it's a slowdown on the manufacturing side, it's a slowdown on the logistics side. Logistics is moving that product, getting it out to the consumer, getting it out to the warehouses for distribution. And it's an important part of the supply chain process. And so if you bring it all together, we almost had a meltdown, and we've had a couple of meltdowns in supply chain and logistics, right? We had one in 2008 where the economy really slowed down. There's looming talks of a slowdown for this June, right? Because of the tariffs and logistics, but product has to move. And so it's the demand for that product to move. So you have to look at where, if you're in supply chain and logistics as a professional, where does it make sense to plant yourself? Because you want to be in a place where you're going to continually keep moving along with the product. And so it used to not be such a, big word for us, but as we came across challenges and as we grew professionally, you started seeing um, colleges building out their supply chain degrees, right? And so that was, for me, that was a great piece to see, because I got to see that really be implemented back in the 2000s, right? Colleges started to see, look, there's a real need for continuous improvement. And so we became more and more professional, which had given us a broader audience, because I don't think we really paid attention when we went to the store how the product got there. We just needed the product, or what's driving the product not being there. So now that we have more visibility to data analytics, I think everyone's more involved in what's going on right now.
So a shameless plug for myself. Of course, we know shit they never taught you in law school. So to avoid manufacturing and logistics and supply chain issues, and you want to get a new copy of my more shit they never taught you in law school, go on Amazon. It comes live that you can order the hard copy or the soft copy on May 29th, which was my parents' anniversary. So I'm putting it out on May 29th to honor their anniversary, because they were both avid readers and they're supporters. And you can go order it on Kindle now and go get a copy. So we were talking about a little bit of tech. And you said, that we can see that. So I'm gonna throw you probably the hardest question we're gonna have today. Okay. Do you see AI affecting your logistics and supply chain and hiring and opportunities positively, negatively? So first, I know this answer, right? Is AI going to have an effect? Yeah. Okay. What kind of effect? Like, so if somebody were in there in college and studying, now it's like, oh my God, this area is going to completely disappear. Focus on this, right? I don't think website designers are going to be profitable later on. I don't think graphic artists are going to be, because you could do everything on Perplexity, ChatGPT, Meta, all these. So I guess if you're somebody who is in the logistics and supply chain world and has the opportunity to learn something, like what would you advise, your kid, your friend's kid, your niece, your nephew, like, oh man, you need to look into this because this is the wave. This is what's coming.
Right. And so in supply chain and logistics, it's already hit, right? And so what it's doing in supply chain and logistics, it's affecting the way we structure the organizations, right? And so we need a different we need to change how we're working. And so AI affects end-to-end supply chain and then into logistics. And so right now, I think the key word is agents for AI, right? That's a big thing, is like these agents for AI. How do you integrate that into your supply chain? I'm always trying to keep up with it on LinkedIn or through articles, but I did catch an IBM AI article the other day talking about how the AI agents are helping the CRMs, right? And so I think it's really important for college students to grasp what does that look like on the supply chain side? Where is the integration going to happen? So integration right now with AI is already happening through integrating the ERP systems and then bringing over the data from maybe, all cross units, like from procurement to logistics to sales to marketing to branding, R&D research, right? You have to be able to utilize the AI. To me, AI is still learning, but don't be mistaken, it's learning fast.
Yeah.
It takes in so many books an hour, right? But AI is the same way. Before you know it, we're going to be really immersed in AI, using the data to help companies eliminate cost and reduce the waste, right? Right now, what you're seeing with companies, like we saw back in 2008, we had cloud computing, right? Mm-hmm. And so what did that do? That kind of eliminated positions, but we had to get new employees in to implement that cloud. just like we're having to do now with AI and technology within supply chain and logistics. You have to have the professionals come in who are familiar working with TMS, WNS, data analytics to be able to gather the data that they need efficiently and quickly to make it work with AI. And then if
Right.
you drive all these processes together, you've got a leaner company, right? And that's what we're looking for. I think this year there's been a big concentration on eliminating the waste.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess so AI, I mean, look, I've been saying this for a year plus on this show, and I've been saying it since AI hit the market. I'm a huge superhero and comic book and all of that. So I look at it as AI, and the listeners will tell you, I look at it as, that's Batman with his nifty belt, right? His boomerang doesn't work if Batman doesn't throw it. So AI is not going to work unless we have somebody there doing it. Now, do we need someone there? And, could it take something that we need 10 people on and maybe narrow it to 3? Yes. Do I think it's going to go from 10 to 0? No. 10 to 1? No. 10 to 5? Maybe. 10 to 4? Possibly. So that's where it's going to be. So I guess the question becomes, for those people that are in supply chain and logistics now, or those people that want to get into it, like, what is the, all right, so let's learn AI, and don't be fearful that there's going to be no jobs, right? There might be less jobs. You might have to be a little less selective, same thing with when the housing market in past years, you put a house on the market and all the realtor had to do was say for sale and it's sold. Now everybody's complaining here in South Florida that, oh my God, things are not selling in 30 days anymore. They're not closing in 45 days. They're taking 60. They're taking 90. Oh my God. Well, that's what it used to be, right? So
yeah.
So we're in a society now where and I learned this the other day, right? The younger generation, my son and his friends and his colleagues and his teammates, right? They don't use email. Why? Because there's a delay. By the time you fire off the email, it's got to hit your server. Oh my God, you wasted 7 seconds. They want to put it on text or Snapchat because boom, it's instantaneous. And I think that's where we're seeing the problem with logistics and supply chain. You think you're going into Home Depot and you're ordering your windows, and by the time you get home, they're going to be waiting for you. No, that's not how it works. So my long-winded question is, what can help people? Well, first of all, if you're looking for a job in supply chain or logistics, what are you seeing out there as general jobs? I'm not telling, unless you want to promote, I'm not saying, oh yes, I have a job with such and such company, but in general, like, where are you seeing the need?
Transformational change. You're seeing, this year we had a lot of merger acquisitions happen. Last year we had like 29. This year we're geared up for 70. I think we probably already hit 20 something already by this quarter, right? And so where you're seeing the need is for transformational change. And also developing the automation within supply chain and logistics. It's kind of funny because we're in a market in supply chain and logistics where we're aging out some of our employees within supply chain and logistics. These guys are ready to retire, but do we have replacements for them yet? Not yet. I mean, we have to build that interest for the new candidate to come in and be attractive to this position. Supply chain and logistics is hard, right?
Look, you said it as the reverse of what most people were thinking you were going to say. You need to have the candidate find the job attractive, right? Not the hiring agency find the candidate attractive, which is very interesting. In the law field and in where I'm at, if you go on LinkedIn, and I'm very active on LinkedIn, and I look in the jobs just to see what's out there every once in a while. So for those of you that work with me, for me, or together with me, don't get worried. But I look at the jobs, and primarily because people are looking for fractional work regularly. Fractional general counsel, fractional CMO, fractional this. And by the time I look at it, because maybe I can grab that job and bring it into the practice and do more work, there's already 100 applicants. And they're just sifting through. Nope, 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 nope. It's the opposite in the way that you're doing it. It sounds like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that you could post something saying supply chain logistics opening, and unless it's membership to a gym and corporate car and this and massive salary, people are saying, no, thanks.
Yeah. I mean, it's both ways. You've got an employer's market right now, which is, it's a lot of candidates out there, but is there a lot of quality candidates out there? And look, if you're hiring in I work in mid-level to senior level, right? And so those guys are problem solvers. They're transformers. They're professionals. They've been in the industry for a while. They know exactly what they want to do, right? And so you can look at me more as a headhunter, because here's what I'm going to tell you. I know when I talk to a candidate, I know their skill set. I know, have they taken a company from 30 million to 100 million? There's a process within that. Like if you have a candidate that's working with a $10 million company, I can't put them in a $50 million company. You know why? Because that's a different process, taking it from 10 million to 50 million. But these candidates that are quality candidates, they need to find the roles that are going to challenge them, because a lot of these candidates that are good at what they do love to be challenged. It's about money too. But
now, do you have a sweet spot? Do you like to work with the 10 million, the 50 million, the one of my clients, a 5 billion? Right. Do you have a sweet spot where if somebody's listening, hopefully lots of people listening, but if someone's listening and they're like, I need a headhunter, I need a recruiter, I need an executive, to be on my side. Do you have like that ideal avatar client?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's going to be no, not really, because I like the challenge. You've got, maybe if it's a company with a great concept and they're at maybe 10 million, right? And they don't have an HR person and they don't have time. They're in growth mode. They don't have time to recruit excellent candidates, but they've got to scale out, right? They've got to get to the next level. So for me, I like that challenge. Going into maybe a $6 billion company, maybe they're looking at transformational change from leadership. How do we get this thing ready to sell? You know what I'm saying? So it just depends on the challenge. Is what is it going to look like? How there are some companies I don't work with. It's because maybe the challenge and expectations aren't realistic for the timing that they need. So I got to be careful on who I work with, right? But I accept the challenge of any size, but it needs to make sense for me, and it needs to make sense for the candidate and the client. And so having the experience in supply chain and logistics, I can take a 1,000-foot overview look at, okay, here's the landscape. Here's how I need to bring the candidate into this company to be successful. They're both going to be successful if they can follow through with what both of them promise that they can deliver, right? And so just being able to identify what may knock out qualifiers for that candidate not being successful in one of those positions as well. So that's where I thrive in that sector.
So do you try to attract the company that's hiring, or do you try to attract the person to fill the role? Like or do you work on both ends of it? And
both ends, yeah, both ends. Okay. Yeah. So if I see a company that's going through transformation, and I have a large network, I have, like in my LinkedIn network, I have probably 12,000. That's not, I know people have more, but I have about 12,000 followers in my network.
12,737, 12,738, 12,739. Thank you, listeners. And that's a very important thing, right? Because look, in the past, I've worked with legal recruiters that they will just take me as a candidate and get me to a specific law firm. Or there was one that took my law firm and attracted other candidates. And then there was one that they were working for the law firm and they reached out to me and they said, hey, we've got an opportunity. So anybody who's listening in logistics and supply chain, employer or employee, career person or job, hiring person or the one to be hired, listen. I mean, this is your one-stop person. And maybe Rachel might not be able to find you the ideal job, but maybe she can get you in touch with the right person. Maybe she can help you take a course on AI in order to be more attractive. Maybe she can offer you some tips and insight and all of that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give everybody a tip. We're going to take a quick 25-second commercial break so that we can thank our sponsors for the show. And then we're going to come back and Rachel's going to talk to us a little bit about more of some of those tips that she can offer. And we're going to stay away from politics, but we are going to talk about what is the chatter in the industry about these tariffs and where things are going. I have my own opinion. Rachel might have her own opinion. We're not going to talk politics, but we could say what, if we had a crystal ball, where we think it's going. And I'll start that conversation up after the break. So stay tuned. And we'll be back to speak with Rachel Hayden, who is a confidential career solutions headhunter is her words. You can find her at confidentialcareersolutions.com, and you can also find her on LinkedIn looking up Rachel Hayden, Hayden, and you can always email her at rhayden, Hayden, at confidentialcareersolutions.com. And we're going to go to our quick commercial break right now. Boy, that was faster 25 seconds than ever. I was writing down notes of things I had to do and the commercial's over. But thank you, Going Solo Network and the Going Bold Network and everything that we do and the streamingnetwork.com. So thank you for everything. Again, I'm Jason Weiss. I'm the host of the Ask Jason Weiss show. Although I am an attorney, nothing today is legal advice because we are talking supply chain. We are talking logistics. We are talking headhunters, and we are talking how to advance your career. And again, I have with me Rachel Hayden, who is a headhunter by her own term. So I like that. I'm going to continue to say it. And we were talking about where we think possibly these tariffs and all of these talks and trade wars and everything, we're talking about that. Now, so I don't throw Rachel under the bus, I'll give my own theory first, and then Rachel can tell me if I'm right, I'm wrong, or how she differs, so that we don't get her in trouble. Here's what I think: it's a mess. Okay, I think the current administration went out there. They put a plan in place, and I think what they did is they shot for what's the expression? You shoot for the moon and land on the stars, something along those lines. They put out what President Trump says is his big, beautiful bill, his big, beautiful, whatever it is. And they asked for everything. And I think now it's starting to chip away. And as things chip away, people can continue to negotiate. Will we all have jobs? Yes. Are we all going to be employed? Yes. Are we all going to have to deal with inflation? Yes. But at the same time, egg prices have come down. Gas prices have come down. Real estate prices have come down, which is good and bad. So the only thing that hasn't gone up is my salary. So I got to yell at myself and give myself a raise. But in the logistics and supply chain, I think that we're going to see some changes. I'm not saying positive. I'm not saying negative. I will allow Rachel to comment on that. But I do think we're going to see changes. Simple as you go into a big box store and you see these robots walking around and they're checking inventory and they're scanning things and they're cleaning the floor and they're doing all this. Well, that was a 2 or 3 person job in the past. Now you got one person who's checking the data. So you've now taken 3 people and combined them into one. And the accuracy is probably about 95% more accurate. So how do you see that affecting the people you work with, and they should be knocking down your door saying, get me a job?
The tariffs, it's interesting because when you go into the grocery store, you see empty spots, right? I know that within the last week or two, there's been certain things I didn't even know. I know that they're missing. I'm like, what is that that's missing? And I'm thinking, where did that come from? And it has to have something to do with the tariff. And the way it affects us from the hiring and supply chain side, on the hiring side, is that we had a real slowdown for hiring because companies were sitting on their hands for hiring. They didn't want to make decisions to hire in right now because the product is sitting overseas or at the cargo in Los Angeles or some of our major ports, right? Or what's the cost to bring that in? A lot of supply chain companies pre-bought their product, right? And we have a little bit of relief knowing that we've got some negotiations with China and then some of the other countries that are, coming to terms, right? But there's still a lot of uncertainty because we're not really finished with those terms, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, in the supply chain and logistics piece, what it's doing is like for candidates that are out there who are seeking a position within supply chain, and then even on the transportation side, it's slowing things down. And most of the time, supply chain is the last thing to slow when we come to a recession, right? And so I think that's why there's like 40% chance of recession in June, right? Now, the numbers could change. I'm not an expert on this, but what I read is that there's still going to be some demand issues in supply chain, right? And so that's going to slow down the business. So it's yucky right now until it's going to be fixed, and then there's not going to be certainty in there to move forward with these big hires on my side. And I've got a lot of executives sitting out there who are quality executives that need to get moving on their search, would like to get into a company. I had a candidate go through 16 interviews. Yes, because
For the same role, or 16 different companies.
What are you doing? Oh my God. And then they told him no. So
this one individual met with 16 different people or different whatever, and then it was told, oh my God.
Yeah, I talked to this guy. He's like, I always ask him, like, where are you at in your interview process? And he goes, you're not going to believe this. I just got finished interviewing with a company where I had 16 interviews. That's part of slowing down the hiring process, right? And then,
that just doesn't make sense, right? Look, here's what I don't understand, right? You bring in a candidate and you look at him or her on paper, and it's got to pass the sniff test or the laugh test. Oh, we're looking for these five things. Checks the box on all 5. Okay, awesome. Move it to the next round. I get that there's a personality thing, right? I'm talking with my hands. So maybe you don't like people that talk with your hands. Okay, move on. But if you're okay with talking with your hands and doing all this, great. Now you're going to work directly for this individual. Meet with her. She's okay with you. So now what, right? Just negotiate the money, and negotiate the terms, and you're done. So I see, one application process, maybe 2 rounds of interviews, and call it a day. Yeah. Maybe a 3rd or a 4th round. 16? That's wasting everybody's time.
Really, to me, it's a little bit of arrogance as well to go through that many interviews, right? That process that's way too long. Like, what are you doing? Is it because of the stall in our industry of hiring? I talk to a lot of candidates that have gone through the interview process where it's taken months to get to the point to where the company's not ready to hire, or they're putting the position on hold. So these companies know that they need these people in, but they're stalling on the hiring process because the uncertainty of what's going on with the tariffs, what's going on with potential recession. So they're stalling. So they want to keep these candidates out there. They want to keep them. But look,
but I've got a solution for that.
right.
Dear Mr. or Mrs. Candidate, on a phone, a text, an email, a Slack message, whatever it is, due to uncertainty of what's going on, we're placing this on hold. You are a candidate that we actually like, and assuming that we get back into it, we will be reaching out to you again. But in the meantime, please, best of luck in your search. This is not a no. This is, we're putting it on pause.
Yeah.
I wrote about this in my book, my first one, and I think my second one, and it was waiting on a plane, and people were up in arms because a plane was delayed, and it was a mechanical problem. It had to do with a tire, and these people were getting yelled at that were working at the counter. And I went up there and I said to one young lady who I thought was going to break down in tears, I'm like, look, all we want collectively is information. So come on every 5 to 10 minutes and say, we're getting the new tire. It's en route. Where the tire has been delivered. They're putting it on the plane. This is what we expect. Unfortunately, now our pilots are timed out. We have a new crew that's an hour out. So we're looking at an hour and a half before. That's all we wanted, right? So same thing, I think, with candidates who want the job, right? Just be honest. Same thing with candidates. Hey, look, I like the job, but I've got another interview tomorrow at another place, or I'm in round 7 with the other place and I'm only on round 3 with you. Like, where did the fact that nobody communicates and shares and is open anymore, where does that go? Right? You can post that you're at Dunkin' Donuts drinking a latte and that you're eating a jelly donut, but why can't you tell me that, hey, I need an extra $1 an hour. I need health benefits. Why can't you communicate that? Like, I don't get it.
So I think it's, part of, a big piece of that is transparency, right? And like anytime you're in a situation where you have uncertainty, being transparent about the situation is going to give more comfort and understanding than not saying anything at all, which I've seen that through companies going through transformational change, to where you have employees that have to go through this merger and acquisition, and they are scared to death because they don't know. There's not certainty there. They don't even know, like, if they got to clock in the next day, if they're going to get to clock in the next day. It's one thing knowing that you're going through the move, right? And
but I can understand that, right? Because I work with a company right now where I'm part of the legal team. I'm an independent contractor, and when a certain deal is coming down the pipe, if we're going to buy, if we're going to sell, if we're going to relocate, if we're going to close, if we're opening a new product line, there's NDAs, right? And the NDAs are signed among the people that way above my pay grade, but because I'm an attorney, I'm already sworn to the secrecy. And the person who's working at the plant may not know about it because of that. But at the end of the day, when the deal is done and when you know what's going on, go tell that person, hey, look, we just closed the deal. And, unfortunately, your job is going to be eliminated, or we're closing the deal. But don't worry, they're taking all of our staff. Like, I think transparency is huge. But again, I understand sometimes you can't because of confidentiality. You can't say, oh my God, book 1 and book 2 are going to merge and it's all going to become book 1. I understand you can't do that and you got to keep it secret. But
I get that.
Hey, look, 2 books, buy them both.
Right. Exactly. So what I tell you, good plug. But what I tell you is through the people already know that this is happening, right? And so I've worked within private equity. I understand that you have to keep some things very quiet, but after it happens, there needs to be something said about, we're going through some change right now. As simple as that. like, you don't have to promise anyone their jobs. You don't, I just think there's within the process of interviewing, sometimes transparency is missed. Sometimes in transformational change afterwards, it's missed, right? And what does that create? It creates the person not knowing where they're at, which makes them uncertain of the company, right? Either way, if they're interviewing or if they're in a situation to where, they have to see if maybe they need to start looking, right? And so it's interesting out there when it comes to transparency. How do you do it the right way, right? I mean, it
I,
seems simple to me, but it doesn't.
look, I'm a very transparent and open person. I do that, but at the same time, look, if and it happens all the time, if there's a merger, if there's something that, if someone will come to me and they'll say, hey, look, we're going to be eliminating this person's position. We're going to be like, I understand. I got to keep my mouth shut. And I can't say anything, based on attorney-client privilege and other things. But hey, we're doing this. You don't have to, just don't lie, right? Just say, hey, look, we're getting ready to merge with another company. Well, am I going to have a job? Am I going to have this? I honestly don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't have that level of clearance. Unfortunately, that automatically puts somebody in the, oh my God, I'm losing my job. And then they're not going to do their work and they're going to start focusing on somewhere else. And then their performance is down. And guess what? A job that was secure, you now lost because you're saying the what ifs. So I understand there's a balance, right? I get it. Right. And you can't be completely, but for all of those in the logistics and supply chain community, we feel your pain. We appreciate everything you do. And if you're looking for a new job, you're looking to improve, you're looking to bring on talent, look no further. Grab Rachel, the headhunter Hayden. That's what we're going to call her now. And see what she's got in her stable of candidates or her stable of jobs. In logistics, supply chain, and manufacturing, the goal is to always have a full warehouse. Do you have a full key of, employees and employers ready to go? And now you're just trying to be the matchmaker? Or are you seeing a slowdown as well?
So the warehouse piece is different. Like, it's hard to keep those candidates within. That's more of a, depending on the level, right? Warehousing and manufacturing distribution's always been hard to retain people to work, right? And so I always see help needed within the staffing industry for warehouse. Now with automation, AI changing, there's a lot of things. We've got sustainability issues out there, packaging's changing, so keeping up with machinery as well. So there's a lot of things in the warehouse that change the way warehouse and supply chain manufacturing works. And so you do always have a need for those candidates. Sometimes they're hard to retain, just, depending on the level. And supply chain and manufacturing is stressful. And some people can work in a stress environment with no problem. Some people can't, right? And so you're looking at some of these positions being skilled positions for machinery, engineering. So it just kind of depends on who you're working with and the industry, right? Like, because in supply chain and logistics, we have different verticals in the industry. We've got like food packaging and then automotive. We've got cosmetics. We've got heavy material manufacturing. So it just depends on which industry is needing what, and also.
And what do you see? What do you see as the highest demand right now out of all those industries for people? I mean, for jobs. Where are the openings, if any?
I would say probably mid-level is where the openings are at. Like, you're going to have a lot of mid-level positions open. Right now, we don't have a whole lot of executive roles open right now. We have a surplus of senior candidates out there right now. And that's due to the merger acquisitions that we've gone through in the past year. These guys have been misplaced, and it's very competitive out there for these guys. So there are positions out there for them, but it's competitive, and they've got to brand themselves to get in. Now it's not good enough just to hand over a resume. You have to brand yourself.
Yeah.
It's just like, you want to make yourself attractive because you are dealing with competing with some very heavy hitters out there who are very knowledgeable and experienced at what they do. So branding.
And where should these individuals brand themselves? I'm guessing not TikTok, right? But
No, like
LinkedIn.
Yeah, LinkedIn. I think if you're a senior executive, why not? If you're in a job search, why not lend your experience to a college to speak to college students who are coming into this? Let's say they're coming into research and development, and your expertise is in research and development, and you're a strong leader in the industry coming from a strong brand name. Why not reach out to your alumni and say, you know what, I have some time available. If you would like for me to come in and talk to these college students about, what's going on in our industry and what the future looks like, I don't have a problem doing that. It's not good enough just to let your resume do the work anymore.
Well, I think that I still think, at least, when I've looked for people and all of that, LinkedIn is the way to go. I still think that is where professionals go look for other professionals. They'll also look on social media to see if you're doing dumb things, but I think LinkedIn is the way to go. So I can't believe we're almost Cece, who's one of our people, thanks for talking about hard subjects. So thank you, Cece, for allowing us to talk about hard subjects. So we're almost finished here, and I always save my hardest question for last. So do you have a subscription to either Netflix, Prime, Hulu, one of those?
Apple, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So what are you currently watching, or what did you watch that you enjoyed that listeners can go ahead and put it on their to watch list?
Well, for me, I work hard all day. I like to laugh a little bit. So I've been watching The Studio off of Apple, but Severance caught me. I got into the Severance show as well.
Yeah, I've been told about Severance. I hadn't heard about the other one. I just finished the third season of Reacher on Prime. I really enjoyed it. I also just watched Gladiator 2, where I know didn't get rave reviews, but I enjoyed it. It was entertaining. Like I said, I've just been enjoying, like you, I work hard all day, and I need some brainless stuff at night. I also just finished White Lotus, the newest season. Again,
I like that too. That was
good. It was good. So most importantly, if you're in supply chain as an employer or an employee, you want to get into supply chain. You want to learn more about supply chain. You need a headhunter in supply chain and logistics, of course. Reach out to Rachel Hayden. Her information is going to be along the bottom, but we could also go ahead, and it is, hang on, let me just go back to my screen. And it is Rachel. You can find her at confidentialcareersolutions.com. And I think it was Rachel at confidentialcareersolutions.com. No, it's R. Hayden at confidentialcareersolutions.com. You can find her on LinkedIn. And hopefully she will be the one to find you talent, or find talent a new opportunity. So Rachel, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing about a very timely and sensitive subject. And for all of you that are looking for jobs, looking for options, looking for information, or looking for employees, look no further. Rachel Hayden, 2 thumbs up. Thank you, Rachel. Have a wonderful day and weekend. And thanks again just for being here.